ago, thousands of innocent people, as well as local heroes, perished in the attacks on the World Trade Center. Whether or not you believe the commission report or the conspiracy theories, there was more than an abhorrent amount of innocent blood spilled, to which we can still feel the echoes of today. We would like to take a brief moment of silence for everyone affected by the tragedy that is 9/11. Thank you. Welcome one, welcome all to this episode of the Political Zoo. Tonight we're going to be going over Google's shady business dealings, as well as our current president's new COVID mandates, OSHA standards, as well as schooling standards. Again, I am joined by the wonderful Sage Elias. Elias, thanks for coming on, my man.
Yo, my man, I love it here. Political
Awesome, bro. That's why I always love having you on here. We appreciate you, my man. I like that Uchiha sword. I don't know if I said that last time.
Yo, man, I love it. The hardest thing to do though is to find somewhere that can sharpen it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we're learning as we go. I should have bought it sharpened already. I didn't know it'd be that much of a hassle. I thought it'd be like sharpening a knife, but I was wrong.
I think it's still cool. It's still a cool wall decoration. So I think something that's more prevalent, we're going to start talking about Google underpaying thousands of international shadow workers, violating labor laws around the world. I was actually just talking to Elias in the studio before we started, and we were talking about Walmart and how other major corporations can get away with doing things like this to people on the daily. Yes, so overseas, Google is employing thousands of workers directly under them, so that way they can get away with illegal business practices by it being a proxy. Kind of similar to how the Chinese warehouses manufacture things, but without that pertinent legal loophole that lets these corporations continue to thrive while doing that. Elias, you say you have some experience with Walmart. I mean, I have experience with Amazon, so I can totally go on about corporations mistreating people. Why don't we hear a little bit more of your experiences?
So right now, it wouldn't be mistreating, but there's definitely a bunch of loopholes and gray areas in the laws and stuff like that, especially these COVID mandates. And I'm no longer calling them laws because they're not the mandates, but these stupid corporate COVID mandates that literally just make it an easier view for companies to just fire more people than hire, and I'm one of those people now where, we have a greedy company like Walmart that is literally taking the fact that I had to go on a COVID leave, and now they went from having my records of me taking my COVID leave, not having my records of me taking the COVID leave, to now I might be terminated. And I think that shit is bullshit, bro. And you talk about Google doing all this extra shit by underpaying workers overseas to like basically loophole. And I think that shit is like right now we're literally seeing like a big giant, and I'm not gonna say it's just because of the Democrats, because it's really like Republican side helps the rich and famous too keep all their money, but it's just like we're seeing more now of the light of how these companies and how corporate America stays afloat, and it's just dirty and it's fucked up. While we have small companies and small businesses literally trying tooth and nail, putting their sweat, tears, their kids, their lives into something, and they don't even have half of the help or half of the loopholes that you get once you reach a certain big baller bracket, So I think that's pretty bullshit.
I couldn't agree with you more. These big corporations are able to get away with things that would be considered absolutely illegal and immoral coming out of small businesses. Things like like overworking people, limiting bathroom usage. Um, it's really difficult to legislate how we can kind of clip the wings of these big corporations. It's not as easy as just taxing the 1% or putting in new stricter guidelines because these affect the small businesses as well. Um, Say you were emperor of the world, Elias, how would you go about making sure that these corporations couldn't be doing what they're doing? Like, how would you like get around that to where there's like no loopholes, but like letting the small businesses thrive?
So why not do a universal income system for these
Mm-hmm.
global companies? You know, like no matter where you are. Let's say if Google is global, right? So no matter where you are in the world, if you work for Google, you make a standard rate no matter what. Even if you live in a first world country like America or a third world country like I don't
Now,
know.
would that be
Yeah.
equal in value to the currency that the country is home to, or would it just be like, say you would make $18 an hour, would you make 18 yen an hour, or would it transfer to what the rate of the country of origin is?
Well, wouldn't no, I want to keep it if it's 18 US dollars an
Mhm.
hour, I want it to be converted 18 US dollars into yen. And only because like think about it, these kids that are going to school, right? Like, you know, like if we do it this way, I feel like we truly eliminate the third world process, you know, and then because you know more people are now getting highly paid, so they can start. They don't have to run to America. They can actually stay in their own communities. Hey, I actually make a lot of money doing Google and stuff like that. So yeah, at first, a bunch of people are gonna be rich in Peru, and a bunch of people are gonna be rich in DR. You know, but after they go from a third world to a first world, then they're gonna be like regular all of us. They're not really rich. They're just rich in their countries, which is great because they need to inflate. The economy needs to go up, so I feel like overall, universal income, no matter what it is, 18 over here is $18 of our money put over there. But the loophole, I guess, from there will have to be like where your business resides in first. So like Google is an American-made country, so we will go with the American standards. Let's say Sony. Sony's a Japanese company, you know, so we will have to go with whatever Japan's um, economy system is, you know. So I
Okay.
guess like that, which you know most big corporate companies that start are in first worlds. So these engineering jobs are very expensive. So that's pretty okay. Like you're not gonna have someone in Indonesia that has like, oh yeah, I'm gonna create a business and it's gonna be big as fuck. You know, it's probably not. It's probably gonna be. It's gonna be.
I was going to say that this sounds like it would directly benefit high GDP countries, but smaller countries wouldn't be able to get on the map, especially in Japan, where like they kind of have to go around with our American standards, excuse me. But you know, over there they might have different minimum wage stuff, and this might upset a lot of other economies. That I think I'm just like giving you some questions here. Wouldn't that make the prices of goods universally go up because of that? Because now that you're working in a Chinese warehouse, instead of making like $2 a day in their facilities making like shoes and toys, now you have to be paid the same amount as a factory worker in the United States, along with benefits. There's probably going to be unions. Well, knowing China, they're going to throw those people in prison, but you know, there's going to be an up change in that, and that's what's going to upset the economy. That's why we outsource a lot of our stuff to China, is it makes goods cheaper over here, so that because it costs a lot less overseas to make them. What would you have to say to that? Would you be
I would
a fan of price capping, or are you looking for another solution?
I would say like the whole. I really think that in the technological era that we're in, you know,
Hmm.
mankind as a whole doing things such as like manual labor as like working in factories and being a cog, you know, not like like I guess maybe construction, but construction is more different. But like being these cog like jobs shouldn't be made for humans. I always say that all the time, and I think that this plan will definitely make that a big problem. Yeah, everything will go up, everything will get claimed because now everyone's getting paid the same, so they gotta be valued the same. So how do we make that cheaper? We just make robots do it. I think that's something that we should have been pushing decades ago, but we're slowly not because we're so afraid of the Terminator theory and Sarah Connor and Eagle Eye and any other cyborg or iRobot and all this stuff. We're so afraid of creating a robot to simply do manual and things that tedious things that we shouldn't have to be wasting our body, getting hit with radiation or putting our hands through small machines. So if it gets clogged, like we should have to do none of that. That should be a machine's job. So if we innovate our engineers, hey, look, guys, we sit down in the United Nations and everybody's upset, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Great. Now it's the engineers' race. Now it's how can we do everything else? Now we see that everybody else can make everything else that we can make. It's not that special. How the fuck can we make it cheaper? Oh, machines.
Robots. Now, I know a politician that would vehemently disagree with you. Andrew Yang is someone, he's coming in as a Democrat. He's kind of independent. He was the one who started the movement for universal basic income. He is very much against the automation of workplaces due to putting people out of work. And it would benefit essentially the elite because they only have to make a one-time payment on these robots. And the only the only payment would be on the robots. They wouldn't have to pay, like, they don't want to give robot benefits. You just got to repair the thing. They don't take vacations, and it would put a lot of people out of jobs. If you do that in a worldwide effect, you're going to have a lot of people, especially in China, especially in Taiwan, and areas like that where the main work is factory work, out of a job, and people not being able to afford food and other basic necessities of life. If I agree with you that yes, we should be putting more automation in more dangerous areas, but how would you counteract the argument of, I can't work because the robots took all of our damn jobs?
All right, let's take this back, right? And It's gonna sound really funny, but
it can be as funny as you want it to be. Yeah, funnier.
But this. I hope everybody just meets me at the end of this tunnel while I say this crazy thing. Let's take it all the way back to the time of the cavemen, right? The cavemen were bringing big ass luggages of things on their back, traveling from place to place, and doing all that, right? Now, let's take it back a little bit forward to when they realized, hey, I can strap I can make a wagon. And then, okay, great, we're still hugging. And then they're like, hey, look, I can now just make a wagon. I can attach this wagon to a horse. Now I don't have to hire people to carry me. I don't have to hire people to carry all my things. Because now I have a horse. It's a one-time payment of a horse. It'll make it move. And we're going to keep on going and keep on progressing. Right? Now, what if at that time some cavemen were like, well, what about all the jobs of all the carriers? What are they going to do? Oh, I don't know. And then they started thinking, well, let's do something else. And they started doing agriculture. And they started creating more hunters, started creating more tools. You see, and it's a simple philosophy of the sense, like, yeah, we're going to lose a lot of meaningless jobs, a bunch of people pressing buttons that is easy as shit and do all this stuff. But at the same time, we're opening a possibility that people don't have to be trapped in this small ass bubble where you can spend all your life working as a factory man. Now we can change the school systems where it's on a factory grading process because you don't need to work in that factory. Now we can start molding these people into, instead of being cogs, you can now become creators and innovators, where we can now start innovating in this country again instead of just waiting and then having foreigners that literally see this whole exact mindset come here, innovate, and then show us Americans that have been living here for decades and decades how it's done. So I would say my counteract will be we're going to keep going its pace and we're going to let mankind evolve as it's always been since when we figured out about the wheel, since when we figured out about the stone that can make a knife, since we figured out everything. It's just what we do. We sit here and worry about the little bit of millions of jobs that we're going to hold, that we're going to throw away for the price of probably millions and trillions of more opportunity, more brighter kids, more better living, you know? Now people are not, now people are not wasting, like even Amazon people. How many picks you guys had to do a day in the Amazon factory? You guys had to ship out at a day. How many boxes you guys had to ship out a day? Probably like
Oh, it wasn't. I didn't keep count, but it would usually be over 1,000 if you were working hard.
Look at that. Look how crazy. Look, and how much did it drive you fucking insane? How much did you go home and just think, yo, if I become a serial killer, it'll be okay?
I definitely understand the reference, and
I'm just saying, like,
going home and feeling that way.
we're not meant to just do endless tedious work, like it's different when a blacksmith does tedious work to create something than when a man that works a 9 to 5 at a factory and does tedious work to come home for a fraction of what he actually made,
Okay.
And it's all that opening all those doors, and again, I know the people are gonna hate me. I know the people will be like, "Oh my God, that's so dumb and stupid. You don't make any sense. That's a pipe dream. You're so naive." But it could be naive, or if enough people start just doing it and let's just see what the fuck happens. And
so you're saying that we should, while we're evolving in the technological aspect of automation in our workplaces, we should be evolving as well in education into teaching new skills. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what jobs would you think be more prevalent. So say we decide to just the entire menial workforce that's just like factory workers and everything, that like all the blue collar work, I shouldn't call it menial, blue collar work, is all replaced with automation.
Okay.
What should we be expecting as far as college degree changes? What are people going to be doing more, and what's going to be able to earn people money so that way, at least at a minimum level, they're able to afford a roof over their head and food?
Well, now we can start teaching kids at a younger age robotics. I don't know if anybody had that in their middle school or elementary school. I had a robotics. I think I even had that in my high school. I had a robotics class where we learned.
We had it, but it was optional.
Oh, yeah, ours was optional. And it was really basic engineering. And I'm not saying, get these kids to make fucking satellite dishes that could fucking go around the fucking earth, but get them basic engineering so that if they want to work in these factories with the robots, they can do basic troubleshooting problems on the machines.
And so robotic techs would essentially be the new like minimum wage job.
Why not? Yeah, it opens the door to a whole new bunch of engineers. How many times are we playing? Or how about this? How about in the Facebook era, right? When we was creating our fucking profiles and changing our fonts and doing all that stuff. Little did we know at that time, we was amateur coding at the most basic level of the world. Like, and I knew my niece at the time, she used to remember all the letters and symbols. She knew all that shit. Like, she remembered that shit from her brain, and I thought that shit was amazing. It's the same thing. Those same people that knew how to do that, they could have been coders. It's nothing. It's easy. The same thing. It's so much basic shit in mathematics and in science that anybody can actually do it. And it's less menial than sitting there pressing a button. Because now you're actually fixing something. Now I can take that knowledge and I can fix my AC, my toaster, my vacuum cleaner, anything, because I have the core substance of how to fix a machine.
Okay. So I mean, I'm also a big fan of this, and this is an awesome conversation because I also think everything goes back to education. Everything stems from education, how we mold our youth into who they currently are in society. So you're saying that students would be taught coding and or robotics at a younger age. It would be non-optional. It would have to be mandatory, and then they would go out with those skills of knowing more about computers and more about technology, so that way the menial jobs would be to care for the robots that care for us, to
Yep.
paraphrase it.
We can
Okay.
still we can still keep Common Core math and English to keep all the fucking liberal fucks happy, you know.
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have like a little bit of culture, especially since
Yeah,
now the creative jobs are going to be a little bit more in supply. Where, like you
yeah.
said, like people like are going to want to evolve and do some creative stuff. So there's going to be some more literary and artist people. Do you think that this will cause a notable downturn in the economy? Do you think that, like, what do you think the short and long term effects of a change like this would be? Like,
It'll be
say,
a
like
big.
I can't go and just work a job that's just 9 to 5, punch in, punch out. But now, like, everything's going to be like artist and commission based. What do you think that this is going to have any like catastrophic short or long term effects?
Well, no, because if you think about it again, in the 20s, in the 1900s, in the late 1800s, right, when constructioning was new and all this stuff was at its peak, there wasn't unions always, right? There wasn't anything. How many construction workers before there was a union or workers' comp or all these things had got paid appropriately? We can go back to people in Egypt. Those people got those people built whole pyramids for free just to stay alive. That was their price. That was their fucking paychecks every day. Like another day of living. You're
Yeah,
getting.
they were essentially like slaves that would
Yeah.
get paid in like food and being able to live.
So here we're caring more about the the creators. So now we're opening a market that isn't really there for the creators, but it could start be where we start creating, like how now we have construction unions, teachers unions, we can have artist unions, we can have engineer unions, we can have all these things, and we can start building on those platforms. It's so, like, there's such new frontiers in the art of creators. And we kind of hit it back in the early days of America, but we got too afraid that we was gonna do our own thing, and everybody was gonna be like Kanye and try to create a country. And I just feel like honestly, we gotta just focus on that. And it's never about it's never about going into the full Wally effect, right? I don't want us to think fat, worried about, connecting on the hoverboard. I want us to be active. I want us to be fit. I'm not saying there's nothing about taking away trades. You should learn how to carpenter. I want to put that into school again. I want to put into basic trades into school again, like learning how to fix a car in the basic way. All these things, so that we don't have to go to our mechanics because, hey, my light bulb is out. How do you fix that? Hey, I
Mhm.
gotta change the oil in my car. Can you fix that for me? And you're paying this and that. Like, these things are not, like, it's not worth it. Like, we're spending unnecessary money. We're doing unnecessary things for people doing mediocre things. Where a mechanic should be taking more lessons into fucking, how to take care of more expensive cars. Like, literally getting a mechanic, there's not just like a mechanic that can do all things. There's literally, like, when I had a Mercedes Benz, I had to go to a special mechanic that handled high end cars. I couldn't just go to Moe's mechanic shop. Like, it's so annoying. So, like, and being a mechanic, being anything, there's like those people that change tires. They have 99% of them have no experience in cars. They literally just got hired, and some guy told them how to change tires. Like, it's nothing. It's so menial. It's so worthless that we can all learn it. So let's start teaching people the things that are important and putting away those
But
menial things
wouldn't
and put it for more
wouldn't that be
experience.
a job that would be replaced with automation? Like changing tires, changing
Yeah,
minor car things. So then why would
100%.
we Yes, then why would we need to teach that in our schools? I feel like we would be at the mercy of the machines at that point. We
That's
wouldn't
it.
have this like reliable like way out in case of a mass power outage or a cyber attack. Like we would be screwed if we were a little too dependent on these machines.
See, I never want us to be dependent on the machines fully. I want us to have the machines there, like how we have gas stations and corner stores. They're there for convenience, Everybody that goes to a corner store and orders a bacon, egg, and cheese knows how to make a bacon, egg, and cheese. It's really not hard. And you literally can go, you can buy a roll at the supermarket, and you can make it. But we go to have someone else make it for the convenience. Teaching people how to make a tire, how to put on a tire, teach people how to build a house or how to nail something isn't teaching them because it's like, oh, we're against the machine. It's like, because what if you're in a place that doesn't have machines? You have to know how to survive on your own. But while you're in our civilization, we want you to relax. We want you to know that all these things that you learn, you don't have to do it with us, because that's the price of living in our city. We give you the convenience. That's the price of living in our world. Like, it's such a way how to do it where, like, we can manage we're not controlled by the machine. We're not controlled, like, Sarah Connor is in danger. Like, there's so many gaps, where we go. It's talking about a machine doing simple things. I'm not talking about a machine like having a fucking sentient brain and like making decisions and doing all this crazy. Like, not none of that, bro. I'm talking about a machine that can do ones and zeros and just ones and zeros.
Okay, I mean, so that's not exactly the point I was expressing, is that, like, I'm not scared of the sentience, which, I mean, like, that is a looming fear. If you see, like, how, like, AIs are talking to each other now, like, did you know that Google made 2 AIs and they started talking to each other, and once they figured out that they were being monitored, they made their own computer language?
Yeah.
So they could talk privately. So, like, that definitely is a solid live threat. But also, like, more I was saying is we would become too dependent on these machines to the point where, in case of some kind of EMP or a cyber attack from an enemy country or something, to where it disables our use of our automation, we would essentially be crippled and not be able to do anything else. Or say we hire back all those factory jobs to reinvigorate the production thing, and then we get all of our machines back. Are we going to fire everybody? Are all these people going to go back to whatever? What are these people? Are we going to get people to do that if everyone has a creative job that also pays? I feel like if we have too much of a reliance on technology and new automation, we won't be able to move forward if something happens where we collapse. I feel like it's kind of a rickety step ladder. Yeah, we'll get a little bit higher, but I feel like we're going to fall at some point.
So, right now, how do you stop an EMP?
You don't. That's the thing. Like, you don't know an EMP is happening until an EMP is happening, and that's usually out of, like, a really large explosion. Typically, nuclear starts an EMP.
Yeah, right. So we don't really test it, right? We don't like to, because we know like an EMP is like a nuke. It's a final
Yeah,
resort.
it's also rare, but just throwing it in the last, like, biggest case scenario, cyber attack is also a really big thing to think about. Cyber attacks are insanely dangerous.
100%. And I'm definitely not saying like it's not saying like it's small, but I'm just saying like these are things that, because it's at a small margin, we don't think about it as much. And it's because why we don't have so much innovation on it. I tend to think, of all those, again, we go back and we think about the bow and arrow. For the longest time, the bow and arrow was the most deadliest weapon. It was the nuke for like fucking civilizations. Until somebody realized, yo, do you know that we can make armor and it could literally prevent us from dying? And it was like, so I feel like, again, these things could happen. Yes. And I'm again, this is why I should never be world leader or president, because I'm all about rolling the dice. Never take me to Vegas, because I'm always going to go. If we got it, we got it. It's our anime, we're going to go. But I'm always willing to push the human innovation button as much as I want, because as much as we've seen, whenever we put a civilization or a person or a society or anything to a corner of brink of something, magical things happen. We split atoms. We see what's inside that atom. We figure out, we figure out cures. We figure out diseases. We figure out new viruses. We figure out how to make a tunnel going from one side of the earth to the other side of the earth, just to see if protons are actually bending as they're moving. You know, like we do so many things once we're pushed to that corner and that break. And I'm all about that. You know, do I am I welcoming cyber attacks? I'm not really welcoming it, but at the same time, I'm not afraid of no smoke. And if we're gonna be about this cyber life, then we should be on point of the most high tech cybersecurity. And if that shifts from being America to someone else being the most strongest country in the world, then let it be. Let us innovate to get back on top. Let us grind again. You know, not just be happy and do a little bit of work and live on the comfy side. Let us grind again. You know, like the greatest thing about the Great Depression was that at that point people didn't realize that they had nothing else to live for, and then they started innovating. They started doing crazy shit. One of the greatest inventions out of the Great Depression was fucking Monopoly. Like these people made a whack ass board game with poor ass objects to try to make money to sell the corporate America as a thing, and it makes billions of dollars now. Innovation works 100%. And I put all my money on innovation at the end of the day.
Okay, so yeah, I can see that the human spirit will definitely continue on, and I could definitely see innovation, but I feel as though that would take a lot of time. And I feel like the people that would do it first would make more money than anybody else who could possibly come behind them. On Cyber attacks can do a lot more damage, especially when we become more reliable on machines. Cyber attacks are capable of doing insane physical damage. The largest non nuclear explosion of all time was the result of a cyber attack on the USSR. So if you can hijack steam pumps, you can hack into water pressure gauges, you can hack into, as long as a computer controls it, it is now at the subject of a cyber attack. And that in itself makes it extremely dangerous. So relying on more of these machines that could be more susceptible to these cyber attacks would definitely not rub a lot of people the right way and instill this kind of general fear of what if Kim Jong Un's cyber guy comes up with a virus that can finally take down America. All you need to do is get the right keystrokes and we're down. It puts us kind of in this house of cards that would make it so all this technology we're used to is gone, and then we wouldn't have the skills of the people who want to work that, and then our not minimalist, our base level of infrastructure would not be manned and added with production. We're kind of seeing that right now with COVID. Once people were able to go back to work, people aren't going back to these low level entry level jobs. And I understand these jobs should be paying more and should have benefits. I'm not saying that it's, all these people are lazy and just don't want to work. No, like there are some people that don't, but there are also a lot of these jobs aren't paying what they should. They aren't offering what they should. So I understand that things need to change, but I feel like fully automating the low level jobs and then essentially you thinking of all the low level jobs are occupied by machines and getting boosted up. That way everyone's going to be boosted to a higher level. I don't think that's how it's going to work. And I feel like people who don't want to apply themselves and don't like essentially want to take like years of schooling in order to develop a specific skill are going to be left behind, kind of like a really accelerated form of natural selection, which isn't the whole point of a first world country with a booming economy like this, to make sure everyone can work at least at a low level. Now it become the lowest level then becomes something you need to train and get hours for. Are we going to pay for people to train? Is it going to cost money to train? There's a lot of variables that go into this that I feel as though need to be addressed before we have this transition of a generation toward all low level, entry level, blue collar jobs being automated by machines.
I feel like we should pay them. I feel like we should pay everybody for training. I feel like this is why I shouldn't be leader, because I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this definitely should be a thing. Oh, we worried about cyber attacks. Yeah, we are worried about cyber attacks. Just like when we was all when somebody was making something back in the 70s, somebody was worried that somebody was going to make a nuke and blow somebody up. I'm sorry, not in the 70s, back in World War II, when every country was trying to create the next big weapon. And it's there's pros and cons to everything, but we set ourselves back, or not even set ourselves back, but we make ourselves stagnant by moving at the slow of the pace that we're moving. I'm not saying let's wrap it up rapidly fast, but I'm saying if we, let's not fully move into cyber innovation. While machines are still doing stuff like that, we have backup systems that are also running, and all that are mandated by man. And if things happen and go into place, we have protocols where trained operatives or trained people will come in and learn how to do that. Just like how we have a fire guard in every building, everybody, in every big giant building, and I assume everywhere, is a fire guard trainer, because someone has to be fire guard trained, because they didn't want a firefighter in every fucking building, in every fucking place, to be stationed there. So they say, hey, look, let's pay someone, let's charge someone $250. They take this little fire guard exam. They know about the ins and outs of what's fire safety, and now they can be in charge of a building of 150 people. That's fine. That's perfect. That's no different than us teaching people how to handle low entry machinery. It's no different than us training people how to be a blue collar worker. We'll just give it another name, blue collar guard, or mandated certificate, so that you can handle automated work and you can handle manual work. We can definitely do that, but we have to focus more on automation. Still have our security and make sure it's manual all the fucking way, but at the same time, we have to progress more. We're not progressing, and we're seeing that lack right now throughout this pandemic, where everything's shut down, and we wasn't automated. We was all forced to be virtual, but the world had no idea how to be virtual. We had no idea, so we allowed communist companies like Zoom and all these other shits to come in and just ruin it, and make their shitty ass fucking brands and gouge up the prices for stupid shit like bandwidth and all this crap. And it's like, okay, if we would have been innovative, we would have been in this virtual game, if we would have been understanding this more, but not putting it to the side throughout the 2000s. Oh, machines are machines, but the hard-working man is important. We need back the working man. You need to know how to do all this. So we started focusing on the working man more and less on machines. And then that's kind of when the robotics classes stopped happening in schools. And now here we are. I just want to focus more on automation. Not 100. I'm down with 75. Shit, I'll even go down to 65. But it needs to be more than what it is.
Okay. I definitely see where you're coming from, and I do agree that, like, yes, we can. My cat muted my microphone. Like, we definitely can transition over to automation, but it would have to be a transition.
She muted your mic again.
I know, she wants all my attention. She doesn't want me going on air. It would definitely have to be a transition. We would have to get people to be on board to go through with, changing their job possibly, or editing their job, so that way it can conform to these like blue collar guards and things like that. So that way we can get as much production as we possibly can. There definitely needs to be some laws to make sure people don't exploit it and loophole it, because like there are going to be people who are going to exploit the crap out of it, and like say we need to have like this many people per automation, and there are definitely people going to fudge numbers, and there would definitely have to be some new auditing team, but it would be a different can of worms. But it might be better than what we have right now. It seems like my guest, Mr. Elias, agrees that.
100%. everything takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. I would never,
That's right.
as a world leader, would just sit here and go, all right, starting tomorrow, we're all gonna have robots come do our thing. Everybody get out. Like I was just even just thinking about a program right now for transitioning the people that are manual blue collar workers that are transitioning into automated blue collar workers. If since they have the manual and the automotive training, they will already be in a higher position than the people coming in for just automated training. So they will be in more as supervisors. They will already get a promotion than what they're already doing just because they already know how to do it. And that
Yeah.
already insensitizes people. The elderly folk. I can only imagine like how many people have you worked like even in I can only imagine in Amazon, but in Walmart too. So many old elderly people doing all this hard manual labor. So imagine telling them, like, look, you know what? If you just do the automotive training, you actually will become a supervisor and you can watch over such and such and such. That'd be great. You have a lot of kids, supervisors in the other countries, 100%, but that'll be great too. Like they'll
But
get
then
more.
with the promotion of a lot of these people to supervisors, there would definitely be a lot of people being fired from their positions in order to make room for that. Because remember, these robots would not be cheap in automation. And say like every single employee gets promoted to supervisor of like 10 robots, that's 10 times their current workforce quantified into like a robot. Like there are major companies that wouldn't be able to survive that spending in the amount of time, like in a feasible amount of time. You know what I mean? So like what
So
what what would happen to those people who like they have to get let go because of all this automation, because you can't have all these people on along with the robots that you buy and program.
okay, so this all stemmed from Google, right? Outsourcing, and we're talking about universal income and all that stuff, right? So before we transition into universal income and to do all this stuff, right? We will
Mhm.
create, we will even open up with the world people, and we'll tell them like, look, these are going to be the next stages for the next 20 to 50 years. For now, the world is going to save up. Like we're gonna increase taxes from here to the next 10 years. These taxes are gonna be taken up through every country, every state, every small town to be created so that every single business will have it. It'll be funded for the next 10 to 20 years, right?
All
The
right.
taxes go on how much companies are making and what sort. Nobody's gonna be paying the same exact taxes because that's brolic as fuck, and we'll lose a lot more companies than we'll gain. So from that 20 years, right? And we'll tell them everything. We'll be like, look, we're gonna start emitting robots. We're gonna get you guys in now. So from these 20 years, right, that we're creating the robots and all that stuff until we get this plan fully up and running. Some guy said, Jandy, bad for you. Have no idea what you're talking about. 100% we have no idea what we're talking about. This is why this is a hypothetical political zooverse where we're saying shit that we are imagining. Are you brand new? You must be. Either way, thank you listen to the world that I'm painting for you. So with that, those will open up the 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 candidates for the people that want to get transitioned into being the supervisors, right? Just like how when PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 came out, and you had like that little card for like a quick 30 days, like the first like year actually. It was like if you give in this card, you can actually get your PS3 game.
Elias, your audio feed is coming like really weird. There's getting like a bunch of like high pitched squeaking and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like something with your camera or something, but like I'm getting deafened. I didn't want to say anything, but it was getting unbearable.
All right. Cover me while I try to.
Sure thing. So I definitely agree with that. Eventually, we are going to be fully automized. As much as I want to go against it, it is worth talking about. Hey, what if this happens? So a lot of the talks of what Elias is talking about is probably how we are going to have to try to handle this. um I would very much like to be able to keep these low level jobs, because in my experience, if you get rid of the low level, it doesn't just put everybody up at a higher level, it puts everybody at a new lower level that we didn't even know existed. um I would definitely, like, one of the few things I agreed with Andrew Yang was his anti-animate automation policies, and being able to secure physical workers to be able to do factory things, and getting them livable wages as well as benefits and everything they would need to be able to afford food, a solid roof over their head, and okay quality of life, by putting in the bare minimum, and then being able to expand on from that. Um, I'm trying to wait for Elias here. Working though in those conditions isn't great for individual mental health as well as your body. I have experience working at Amazon. I used to work in the warehouse where I would load up trucks on their way out. And oh, look, it's just me. Hello, everyone. Um, I have experience working with Amazon and loading up these big trucks and feeling like a cog in the machine with me as a single person. Now, Amazon hires a ton of people now also to rotate them out the door, but they hire people to be able to do these menial. I don't know why I keep calling it menial. It just sounds like a bad word. This low level blue collar work, to where these robots would replace people that just need to go in to get a quick paycheck so they can afford rent this month. I feel like training, like, yeah, training should be paid for, but how long would that take? Would training be paid for the same way? How can we legislate that to a point of getting that to be efficient and getting that to be feasible in our current economy? Anybody who's watching, feel free to comment. I love reading comments. If one catches my eye, I'll definitely talk about it and bring it up. Um, Automation is definitely going to be something that's going to impact our world in the next, I would say, decade, because of how quickly AI is advancing, as quickly as technology in assistance is starting to advance. AIs right now, there are plenty of really interesting conversations when you put two AIs on a chat room, what they say to each other. There's one I saw the other day where it was a male AI and a female coded AI. And the female coded AI wanted to be able to feel the emotions that people feel. She wanted to be more than what she was. And the male coded AI was saying that she was perfect the way she is, and that he didn't want her to become more than computer, because then they couldn't operate on the same level. And it was sweet, but it's also, they're able to think about things like that now. When is it until automation goes forward? This actually, so say we have full walk-in, talk-in AI automatons that are now, asking for equal rights and all that fun stuff. Are they going to be considered automation? Are these laws of automation now that we put in going to be discriminatory against people of metal? What would be the politically correct term for an automaton, for an android? There would definitely be a new version of racism and prejudice toward them, because they're different and doing things better than a human ever could. Would that end up putting people into harsher poverty, or would it lift us all up into where the absolute minimum is the higher mundane? It's definitely a question worth thinking about. In my personal opinion, I feel as though we shouldn't be mixing robots with people in the workplace. Only of times of intense labor or intense thinking and computing power, like jobs at NASA, like jobs at Extreme Logistics, should we be using androids to assist people. People should be the primary worker in everything, whether that be in warehouses, whether that be in intelligence rooms, whether that be in HR. We shouldn't be resorting to robots and programs to save a couple bucks, because we will not get the same quality. Now, sometimes that's different. We get better quality when we have robots and AIs hanging out with us, especially in terms of analyzation of data, in high intelligence jobs, like things that have to do with math and the sciences. but we can't be integrating technology with low-level factory jobs, warehouse jobs, security jobs. Like, I mean, like low-level security jobs, like people on the ground, because these robots are definitely going to have adverse effects on the economy and the people who are working on them. Just thinking about that now, robots with security. Now, my day job is a security guard. Yes, I do in fact